Let's talk about Warren Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha. Now, this guy didn't invent some revolutionary new technology, and he didn't inherit a massive fortune. He became one of the richest people on the entire planet by doing one thing, and doing it better than almost anyone else. He consistently beat the stock market. So the question is, how on earth did he do it?
Okay, so this quote, "This is everything." This is the absolute heart of his entire approach to investing. It's not about taking these wild, crazy risks or chasing whatever the hot new thing is. Nope. It's a disciplined, almost obsessive focus on one simple idea: protect your money first.
And that really is the billion-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, how does a regular kid from the middle of America, with no special hookups, go on to master a game that just chews up and spits out so many other people? Well, the answer to that starts way, way back in his childhood.
So you got to remember, Buffett was born in 1930. We're talking the very beginning of the Great Depression. Growing up, he saw people losing everything, and it taught him pretty quickly just how important money was. For him, this wasn't some abstract idea in a textbook. It was the reality he saw every single day.
And man, this kid did not waste any time. At just 6 years old, he's out there selling Coke door to door. By the time he's a teenager, he's got a paper route, he's placing pinball machines in barbershops, and eventually he uses all his earnings to buy a 40-acre farm. I mean, from day one, you could just tell this kid was wired for business.
But for all his little businesses, the lesson that really, really stuck with him, that came from the stock market. He was only 11 years old when he took every cent he had saved and decided to make his very first trade. He bought 3 shares in a company called City Service.
He put his money down at $38.25 a share. He'd done his homework, and he was feeling pretty confident.
And then, disaster. Almost right away, the price just craters all the way down to $27. Can you even imagine being 11 years old and watching your life savings just evaporate like that? But he refused to panic and sell at a loss. He just held on.
He waited. And the second it crawled back up to $40, he sold. Phew. He locked in a tiny profit. He followed rule number 1, right? Don't lose money.
But here's the kicker. A little while later, he checks the price again. That same stock had skyrocketed to over $200 a share. That sting of missing out taught him maybe the biggest lesson of his entire life. You don't get rich by quick flips. You get rich by finding great companies and just holding on. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to you is getting rejected. For Buffett, getting turned down by Harvard was a huge blessing because it sent him to Columbia University instead. And that's where he met the man who would literally change his life, his professor, Benjamin Graham.
Graham was the guy who wrote the Bible of investing, The Intelligent Investor, and he taught Buffett this incredible philosophy called value investing. The idea is actually brilliantly simple. You don't guess, you don't gamble, you do the homework to figure out what a business is really worth, its intrinsic value, and then you just wait. You wait until you can buy it for way, way less. It's like finding a dollar bill on sale for 50 cents.
So Graham gave him the playbook, but Buffett knew that wasn't enough. He was still incredibly shy, totally terrified of speaking in public. So he invested in himself. He signed up for a Dale Carnegie course to learn how to communicate his ideas. It's an investment he later said paid off more than any stock he ever bought.
So in 1956, after learning from the master, Buffett heads back home to Omaha. He's got about $175,000 in savings, and he starts his own investment partnership, literally out of a spare bedroom in his house. And the strategy he used? Well, he took Graham's ideas and pushed them to the absolute limit with something he cleverly called the cigar butt strategy. Think about it. You find a cigar someone's tossed on the street. It's ugly, it's discarded, but it might have one last free puff left in it. That's what he did with companies. He'd find these terrible, failing businesses that were so cheap they were a bargain, and he'd squeeze out that one last puff of value.
And the results? They were just insane. Look at this. For over a decade, the stock market was chugging along at a little over 7% a year. Buffett, he was delivering nearly 30% year after year. He wasn't just beating the market, he was absolutely demolishing it, turning that small partnership into a fund worth over $100 million.
So you'd think he'd just keep going, right? Nope. And this is what makes him different. By 1969, he looked around and saw a market that was just getting crazy too. Speculative. Everybody else was greedy. So true to his word, he got fearful. He had the incredible discipline to walk away.
to shut the whole thing down to protect his investors' money. And he walked away with a personal fortune of $25 million.
So what's next when you've got a $25 million fortune? Well, for Buffett, it all started with a little bit of revenge. He'd invested in this failing textile mill, Berkshire Hathaway, and when the owner tried to pull a fast one on him in a deal, Buffett got mad. So mad, he bought up enough stock to take control of the whole company, just so he could fire the guy. The only problem? Now he owned a terrible, failing business.
And this moment, this mistake, along with some advice from his legendary partner Charlie Munger, it led to the single biggest change in his entire strategy. He realized, you know what? It's way better to buy a fantastic company at a pretty good price than a crappy company at a super cheap price. No more cigar butts. From now on, he was hunting for excellence.
And his new North Star was this idea of an economic moat. Just like a moat protects a castle from invaders, he wanted businesses with something that protected them from competitors. Think about Coca-Cola. Their brand is a massive, powerful moat. It's a huge advantage that's almost impossible for anyone else to copy.
Okay, and this is the secret weapon. This is the engine that made the whole Berkshire Hathaway machine run. Buffett started buying insurance companies. Think about it. They take your premium money today, but they might not have to pay out a claim for years. All that cash they're holding in the meantime, that's called the float. And Buffett had this light bulb moment. He could invest that float, which is basically a giant interest-free loan from all the policyholders, to buy even more great businesses. It was just absolute genius.
And that's the powerful combination. Using that insurance float as fuel to buy these wonderful companies with big, wide economic moats, that's what turned Berkshire Hathaway from a dying textile company into one of the most powerful and valuable corporations on the planet. And it made Buffett a billionaire by the time he was 60.
But in the end, his legacy is so much more than just the billions. It's about a whole philosophy, right? It's about patience, about really understanding what you own, and about living with integrity. I mean, this is a guy who became the richest man in the world, and he still lives in the same modest house he bought back in the 50s and grabs breakfast from the McDonald's drive-thru.
So yeah, he absolutely mastered the complex game of making money. There's no question about it. But when you look at his entire life, his discipline, his humility, his generosity, you have to wonder, was his real genius not in how he made all that money, but in what he taught us about how to live with it?